Alrighty, it's that time of year again. It's the end of November. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and I've got time to winterize our sailboat. Specifically, we have a Morgan 323 sailboat with a Perkins 4108 engine from like 1984 or 5, something like that. And so we need to winterize the raw water channels in the engine in the raw water system, which is, by raw water I mean the waters of the Chesapeake Bay that get sucked in by the raw water pump to cool the engine, because sailboat engines don't have radiators since they're not air cooled. So you need something other than just coolant to keep the temperature down. So to do that, my neighbor Pete, who works on sailboats, gave me this, has let me borrow this tool that he made, and I'm sure other people have made the same thing, but I'm going to document it here because I think it's pretty cool. Essentially, it's a bucket. It's a 5-gallon bucket with a lid. I just spilled my soda water on the lid, but a lid. I bought a 2 gallons per minute pump, which is here. So it's got the intake side. This pops right out, and then this is the outlet, and then the intake. What I'm planning to do here is to mount it on the lid like so. I've actually marked the positions on the lid already, although it looks like these actually shift a little bit. And essentially how it works is you fill your bucket with antifreeze coolant, and then you've got a PVC pipe going down to an eighth of an inch from the bottom, and when you flip the pump on, it'll pull the antifreeze out, send it to the outflow, which is going to be this 1/2 inch rubber tubing. And then at the end of the rubber tubing is going to be, I'll show you later, but essentially a piece of starboard, which is like a really hard plastic for marine conditions. And then that you can push up against the raw water intake filter. So there's like a cap, but there is a raw water strainer, little strainer basket. So you take the lid off, and you can pull the strainer basket out to get rid of leaves and stuff that gets sucked in from the bay, Chesapeake Bay. In this case, we can leave the strainer in, but we can push this square piece of starboard, and then like a spongy material that I'm going to glue on the underside, push that onto the top of the raw water clean out. We'll close the seacock, flip the switch, it'll push it'll start to push coolant into the system. You start the engine with an assistant, and then that'll start to suck the coolant through the system, and when you see the coolant spit out the back, then you know to stop. So you turn the engine off, you flip the switch off, and you're done. First thing we need to do is cut this PVC down to size. I measured the bucket, and I think it's about 14 inches. Here's my bucket. Cut that to size. That's gonna go through a hole that I cut in the bucket right there. You can see the markings where the pump's gonna sit. So right now I'm gonna drill a hole through the bucket, and I'm gonna cut the PVC pipe to the right size. I'm probably gonna want to use the 1-inch paddle bit. All right. Turns out I'm going to use the 7/8 inch bit, that's the. Not sure if you can see this, but it's essentially exactly the width of this I think it was 1/2 inch PVC. All right, anyway, gotta drill the 7/8 inch hole. And then I've got these 3/4 inch grommets, so I'm gonna insert that. That's pretty dull. I think I can get this to fit. It's not quite the... So 6/8 would be 3/4 of an inch, and this was a 7/8 inch hole. So this should work. There we go. Perfect. So essentially the PVC will hopefully fit through there. Almost certain it will, because we just measured it 3/4 of an inch thick. That'll just kind of keep it from rattling around in there. All right. So the next thing I need to do is now I need to cut the PVC down. I've measured the bucket depth to 14.5 inches. So I'm going from here to here is 14.5 inches. I may need to take 1/8 of an inch off when I'm done, but I'd rather it be too long than too short. All right, so I was wrong. The diameter of this is literally a little bigger than 3/4 of an inch, so it didn't fit through the grommet. So what I had to do was notch the grommet, enlarge the hole a little bit, and that should allow the pipe to go through. But yeah, perfection is boring. I have some PVC cement, but we don't really think we need that right this second. And just dry fit it all. Look at that. That's perfect. So, as you can see, there's the pump. This is locked into place, so you can still kind of pivot it to where I was going to put it. So we're good. So this hole was widening the hole was a little sloppy because I went from the 7/8 inch bit to a 1 inch bit, and this plastic is incredibly thin, so it didn't actually drill. It more or less beat it up. But whatever. Like I said, perfection is boring. So let's sort of dry fit this on top of the bucket. See how that goes. And then voila. And I think that's good. Can't quite tell how close that is to the bottom. But I think we're good. All right. For that rectangular, whatever you want to call it, device that I'm going to press up against the raw water clean out opening, is going to be made of starboard, which is this crazy expensive marine grade polymer. In this case, it's a 1/2 inch thick. And I honestly don't remember. I've had this in my basement for about a year now, and I'm pretty sure that this sheet here was maybe $75, maybe $50, maybe even $100. I'm not really sure, but I remember it was like insanely expensive. But this stuff's pretty amazing. It's impervious to water. All right, So I have a jigsaw. I can't remember how hard this stuff is. I'm pretty sure it cuts fine with this, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm just kind of connecting up the jigsaw. Safety glasses. I'm like Norm Abrams on, I think that was his name, Yankee Workshop, would always say, don't forget to use these safety glasses before he would do anything. I think he was also on the show called This Old House. Anyway, let's see how this goes. Not too bad. So now, next step is to grab this. I bought this just a adapter that has the 3/4 inch on the bottom. Again, this just can be open. This isn't going to be screwing in anything because it's going to be pushed up against the raw water clean out. And then it's got the hose barb for this hose here. So what I'm going to do, drill a hole in the middle of this thing, and then again this will just get glued in. Looks like that's about the right. So that can hang below because that'll help center it actually, especially if I glue like a piece of rubber on here to kind of create a seal as I'm pushing down on this. The piece of rubber will kind of form around the lip of the raw water clean out to create a seal. I'm not sure what I'm going to use for that yet. But yeah, so this is perfect. And actually, just for people who like to peel things, pretty sure this is like a protective coating that comes off. Yeah, there we go. So this would be the business end, and that's the underside. All right. Let's see. I should probably do this on a vise, but essentially, I realize that I pretty much have to go to 1 1/8 bit. It's going to be a little bigger than this, but it should be fine because we're just going to glue that in. So it doesn't need to be perfect. In this case, I probably will use 5200 since this is a permanent bond. And this is, you use 4200 when you may need to remove the caulk at some point in the future. And then 3M makes another product called this 5200, which is what you would use for through hulls, basically permanent seals. All right, let's get the 1 1/8 bit in. Just kind of guess at the center here because, you know, this is put it on full drill. Looks like I have the torque setting up. Problem with owning a boat is that all your good tools end up at the boat, and then I have this ancient DeWalt drill. But it gets the job done. All right, there we go. And then this will glue in there. And it is, definitely, as I expected, was going to be a little too big, but the glue will fill all that, and that should be fine. So there you go. All right, so here's the finished product. There you go. It still hasn't cured, so it's still kind of wet. Anyway, gonna let that dry. It looks like 24 hours to cure, so but I think that'll be perfect. All right, I forgot I have a really cheap hardware from Harbor Freight that I bought for just this occasion. They're probably gonna rust out after one year, but at the very least it's a nut, and on the bottom, just a nut, and I'll put a bolt, and a washer and a bolt on the underside of the lid. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, so that's the underside with the really crappy nuts and bolts from Harbor Freight. That'll work for now. And there you go. So almost done. All right, I've now attached the 1/2-inch plastic hose to the out pump outlet, but I can't attach the other end to that until it dries. So I'm gonna let that dry overnight. This is I was gonna show you the hose clamp, but I just dropped it. This is the little hose clamp that I'll use, and I do need to wire it up. Goal, that plan here is to this length of wire. You need to be able to get to the battery on your boat, so you can use some alligator clips to give this thing power. So I'll wire that up, and I'll let you see what that looks like when I'm done. All right, so now I've got to wire up the switch. I've got just a simple toggle switch here. This is the switch I got at True Value, wire lead toggle switch. I'm using these marine gray heat shrink connectors to get everything wired up. And we're done. Guess you probably couldn't see that bit. So do some wire management. Probably put the switch right here next to the pump so that you can flip it on and off. And we're done. Alrighty, I did just a little bit of cleanup on the wires. It was a little janky, but I actually found that the switch fits nicely in these little grooves on the bucket lid, so I went ahead and threw a little bit of 5200 in there and let that seal overnight, so the switch stays put. And then I'll probably, I don't know, do something to lock the cable in here so that it can't get yanked and rip out. So that's probably a little overkill, but whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna let it dry.